Alrighty. It is November 8th, just 46 days till Christmas. And I know there's a lot of you out there listening probably telling me to shut up or don't rush it. But it's going to be here before you know it. And as you know, the Paranormal Journey into the Unknown is still kicking ass and taking names. Season 1 had been seen by at least 2,467 viewers since the Halloween release. Not bad, huh? So, tonight we are joined once again by our good friend, published author, Rick Kueber. However, we also have a special treat for you tonight. We have Rick Hayes, the renowned psychic medium who's been seen on SyFY, the Travel Channel, Chiller, has worked with the Booth Brothers. He is also a published author, and you can check out his books over at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Books A Million. So we're going to be talking to them because both Ricks happened to investigate a location that we filmed at a few years ago. A little place called Hotel Metropolitan here in downtown Paducah, Kentucky. So go grab that cup of coffee and get comfortable and enjoy a new, exciting episode of the Phantasmic Journey podcast. Well, welcome back. I am your host, Gavin Kelly, and next to me is a lovely Paula Purcell, my bride-to-be, June 23rd, 2018. Before we go ahead and get to our guests, Rick Kueber and Rick Hayes, what's new in the news?
Well, as you know, Christmas retail shopping season has pretty well started. It's full swing, and the crazies have been released from their personal asylums, so may the shopping begin. God bless us all. With that being said, just in time for the holidays, you can give your condiment obsession loved ones a keg of Hidden Valley Ranch dressing.
I don't think I could handle a keg of ranch dressing.
I read that earlier today and I was like, really? A keg of ranch dressing?
Ugh. A keg of beer maybe, but you know what? I don't drink beer, so that really wouldn't do me any. Hey, how about a keg of Mountain Dew? I can do that. That'll be perfect.
Proceeding on, in Germany, a man in a German town of Breden reported finding an unexploded bomb from World War II in his home garden. But his neighbors can rest easy unless they especially hate vegetables. The 81-year-old homeowner had contacted the officers Friday out of concern he had stumbled upon a decade-old dangerous weapon. Oh. It turned out to be a zucchini.
I hope that don't explode, right?
Police from a city near Breden posted about the incident on Facebook, including a photo of the zucchini in question. Honestly, couldn't find or see how the mix-up could occur.
Oh my God. That's better than exploding tomato. I'm pretty good with that.
I mean, I'm surely there is a major difference between a zucchini and a bomb.
Well, yeah, they don't even look the same. I mean, they're probably the same color, but they don't look the same. They're totally different.
Okay. Well, also, as anybody knows, you know where we had the giraffe was giving birth earlier this year. and that was a big, huge thing to watch the event of the giraffe at the zoo giving birth to the baby giraffe. Well, now there's another one coming out. This time it's a reindeer, and it's supposed to be Santa Claus Village, and it's live. I have a link on my Facebook if you want to follow. And they have a female, of course, reindeer that is fixing to give birth any time now. Her name is Elsa, and we don't know if it's going to be a little girl or a little boy, but we have a baby reindeer going to pop through the woods here a little soon.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah. That's the biggest thing here lately. I've been watching it.
Everybody on Facebook Live are going to be watching that feed. That's just crazy.
Now, do you remember last year when Pokemon Go was the biggest thing?
Oh, God, yes.
Everybody. I mean, I went downtown. We've had these random people walking around with their phones, and they were, like, trying to find this Pokemon. And I mean, I've had a couple of people at my job just go completely nuts over it. Well, now they're coming out with a new idea based off of Pokemon Go. It's going to be Harry Potter.
Oh, God, no.
Oh, yes. The app is now official, but the details are still scarce, with the launching time frame of just sometime next year. But it sounds like there will be a significant influence from the game Impressed, which allows players to roam the real world, collecting power-ups, defending locations, and exploring their environments.
No. No.
It's like the rock collecting thing at my job. I work retail, and it's kind of interesting because you know how people have the painted rocks? That's a big thing that's going on now, too.
Oh, gosh.
Well, literally, I had a customer come through the line and said, "Oh, we found one of those painted rocks in your store." And I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah, it was behind a can of coffee on the coffee."
Oh, wow. Jeez.
So it's interesting having how everybody can go through these fads of all different things, and you know, it's interesting how stuff starts and ends, and they don't last but maybe 6 weeks or 3 months or 6 months. I know when fidget spinners came out, we were fidget spinner poor. Our story is still fidget spinners poor.
Right.
But that is something kind of interesting. Now, last tidbit and then I will hush and we'll proceed on. On this day in 1895, what do you think might have happened on this day in 1895?
I wasn't born. I have no idea.
Okay, you took history in high school, and I'm pretty sure you took history in college.
I'm pretty sure I slept since then. I don't remember all that
You
stuff.
don't obtain the history knowledge?
No.
Oh, that's why you got me for it.
Yep, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So, tell me what it is.
On this day, physics Wilhelm Roentgen. He became the first person to observe X-rays, and a significant scientific advancement that would ultimately benefit a variety of fields. Most of all, medicine.
Oh, okay.
So you got to think of X-rays in 1895.
Wow. I'm not even sure what they actually used to do an X-ray.
Oh, I've seen I don't know what period or year it was, but I actually saw a podiatrist's X-ray machine in, believe it or not, I don't know if you ever watch American Pickers.
Nope.
Okay, well.
We don't have a TV, remember?
Well,
How do we watch it?
Anyway, we was watching an episode of American Pickers, and on there where is one of the gentlemen on there, and I forgot what their names are. They had bought a podiatrist X-ray machine.
Okay.
And it had the filters were to the imprinting on there was about 2.5 inches thick.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they said that the radiation or the X-ron was so strong that you can cause generating forms of type of skin conditions off of the X-rays onto your feet.
Huh.
But yeah.
That's crazy.
But yeah, it was a cathode rays is what they used.
Yes.
Cathode rays.
Okay.
They could pass through the glass. When he noticed a glow coming from a nearby chemical-coated screen, he dubbed the rays that caused this glowing X-ray because of the unknown nature.
Huh.
And that's
Cool.
my tidbit for the day.
All right, folks, the moment you have been waiting for. These two happen to investigate the Hotel Metropolitan, which is the first, I believe, African-American hotel in Paducah. A lot of stars have stayed there. Gosh, do you remember? I know Nat King Cole was there, right?
Yeah, Tina and Ike Turner.
Yeah, I got cussed out in their room. Was it B.B. King? Did he stay there?
B.B. King, Chubby Checker. Oh God, you threw me off.
There was a baseball player that stayed there.
Oh, there's several kinds. He had I can't remember the husband and wife duo. Oh, I can't think. No, Etta James was one that stayed there.
Okay.
And then you had a little story about Etta James. Etta James happened to be, you know, being part of Hotel Metropolitan.
Right.
Well, Etta James's grandparents actually originated from Paducah, Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
So Etta James frequently came back even after she became a star.
Huh.
Yeah,
I
and
did not
she
know
came back. Yeah, and visited. But yeah, that was interesting.
Wow. That was a lot of static there.
Yeah.
Well, alrighty. We are going to bring in Rick Kueber and Rick Hayes. They can go ahead and give you guys a glimpse or a glance into the Hotel Metropolitan. They were there, they did an event, and they also got to investigate the location. So we're kind of curious of what types of experiences that they experienced there, and what did they uncover at the hotel. Rick and Rick, are you with us? Uh-oh.
Yes, I'm here, and Gavin, I just want to share this. Having Rick and Rick on your show tonight is more powerful than Zach Bagans touching Annabelle.
There you go. That's perfect. That is true, and it's like we're making history too, because you two have never really been on a radio show together. Is that correct?
This is the first time, Rick?
Uh-oh. Where'd Rick go?
Uh-oh, did we lose one?
Did we lose Rick?
I think we've lost. I think we lost one of the Ricks.
Oh man. Rick 1 or Rick 2?
This is Rick. This is Rick 1. I'm always number 1.
There we go. Was somebody sleeping?
Oh, I apologize for that, folks. I have a little technical difficulties here.
Ah, okay. Well, we were just talking about that we're like making history tonight because you both at the same time on a radio show has not been done before.
That's correct. Yep.
That is cool. We're part of making history. So
yeah, Rick and I have done events for years, but we've never done a radio show together.
Yep, and we met you guys for the very first time at GhostCon. I believe that was 2015, I think? I think it was.
I believe so. I believe it was.
Yeah, that was the first time that we all met. And then we went ahead and did an investigation with Rick Hayes and Keith Age over at the Doss House, which was in Evansville, Indiana. So that was a real interesting night. And of course, I'll never live down someone always talking about how much gear I bring. Oh man. So tell us, Paula.
Yes. Tell us what?
Well, what do you want to know?
Oh,
you had questions.
Yeah.
Oh my God, she lost her questions.
Well, I was reading something that someone posted, and I was like, okay, I was trying to figure out what they were getting at.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
There she goes. She got her cheat sheet.
Yes,
Here we
I
go.
do. Okay. We're going to start out with, how did you find out about Hotel Metropolitan?
That actually came through me. This is Rick Kueber. I'm a representative with the Painters Union, and I cover a pretty good area. I have locals in Evansville, Paducah, Nashville, and Louisville that I offer.
Okay.
And our local union there in Louisville, well, back up a little bit, we do every year we have one day that every local in the nation and across Canada, we get together, or we all choose a community service to go out and just volunteer to help do some work somewhere. So one day, there's painters all over the country doing volunteer work. Of course, we do it all the time, here and there, but
Mm-hmm.
it was one specific day in April we used. So a couple of years ago, they talked to Betty at the Hotel Metropolitan,
Mm-hmm.
and decided to go there and do the day of, we'll call it Day of Action. So our representative that was in Paducah at the time got to know Betty, and the guys down there would come and volunteer, try to help get things spruced up for her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was talking to him, and she said, I don't know if you believe in ghosts or not, but I've got some pictures to tell you. So they had this conversation, and that gentleman, Al, he contacted me, and he told Betty, he said, I've got just the guy I need to talk to. He called me and set up a meeting with us, and so that's how I actually found out about it. And it's pretty amazing that place exists in Paducah, Kentucky, and nobody really knows about it. Nobody talks about it.
Right.
It's just an incredible location.
Mm-hmm. How do we find out about it, Paula?
Well, number one, you got a historian for a partner in crime.
Yeah.
And I was just one of those that I know that we were looking for locations, and I knew that there was places in Paducah, and sometimes some of your best things about finding stories about locations is not necessarily, you know, getting it off of websites or something. But believe it or not, you can go and open up the book a topic and put in haunted stories or ghost stories in your area, and you'd be interested in what you find. And someone had posted about a personal experience at Hotel Metropolitan's, how I learned about Hotel Metropolitan.
Okay. And I know that we had Rick Hayes there. You were Rick Kueber's special guest, I believe?
Yeah, we was actually a few weeks before the event. Before that event, we was at another event, and Rick was talking about this place, and he said, and I asked him, I said, where's this place located? And he said, it's in Paducah, Kentucky. And I said, Paducah, Kentucky? I was, it was like, wow, it's so close to home. I didn't even know anything about this place.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about it, and I believe that evening, Rick, we actually talked about it, and we actually started getting everything together. And so Rick, it was Rick's event, and I was invited to be a part of it. I'm very glad I was, because we had some incredible experiences there. And we'll talk a little bit more about those tonight. But one of the things that Rick and I were just talking about before we went on air was that I was kissed.
Oh, no.
Not by me.
Yeah, not by Rick. Absolutely not.
Oh, wow.
In fact, Rick, I think he was a little jealous, weren't you?
I was. Yeah, it's on the video that we took.
Oh, wow.
I was actually kind of hoping maybe I'd get a kiss too if I told how jealous I was, but it didn't work out for me.
Oh, wow.
So how long have you guys...
Sorry?
That's all right. I said, how long have you guys actually... Is this like... Have y'all done several investigations together, or was this kind of the...
Yeah, gosh. We did this school. I think the first investigation we did together was at a school with Keith Age down in Kentucky in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Which school was
gosh,
that?
What was that, Rick? 6-8 years ago?
Yeah, and that school's no longer there, right? They tore it down.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's correct.
But there's been a couple places we've been to that's been since tore down.
Oh, I know. Yeah, a lot of places are getting tore down or they're getting torched.
One or the other, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
In fact, I wrote 3 books, and 2 locations. One of them I can't give out, but the other 2, one of them was torn down and the other one burned.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, true.
Well, I think it's the one that's in, I want to say, is it Children of the Grave 1 or 2? The building is gone because it went up in flames.
That was 2.
That was 2. Yeah, that's
Okay.
That's actually the building that my 3rd book is about.
Yeah, that I wanted to go there so bad, but then Christopher Booth told me, he goes, it's no longer there, chap. It's gone. I'm like, what do you mean
Yeah.
it's gone? He goes, it got torched. I was like, oh, dang.
Yeah, it was interesting. We had finished the investigation and had planned a return trip, but didn't really have a date set or anything. And we got a phone call from the producer for Haunted Asylums,
Mm-hmm.
and wanted me to come out there and interview me on the site because I was the last investigator there before they were going to film the show.
Mm-hmm.
So we had it all scheduled, and like 2 days before we were supposed to go, they called and said, "Hey, we got a call from the city, and they said this place is condemned. We can't go there. We're gonna have to cancel."
Oh, jeez.
I said, "Wait a minute, it's not condemned." But of course, they don't want to listen to me because I'm nobody. So, unfortunately, that show got canceled. We were supposed to be there on Saturday, and on Friday, I think it was, just a random rogue storm blew through, and I think hit the building with lightning,
Mm-hmm.
and it just burned literally to the ground, except for a couple of brick walls did. So I don't know even if they hadn't canceled the show, if we would have been there or not.
Yeah, it was truly
was
sad. I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. I was actually
Yeah.
trying to get that location, and the person told me, well, go ahead and contact me back in about 3 weeks, and yeah, there was
Yeah.
nothing there.
Yep. Well, I was very fortunate to be friends with one of the folks who was like the head of the fundraising effort to
Mm-hmm.
restore the old Knox County Infirmary.
Ah.
And because of that, I got the phone call to come up and investigate
Mm-hmm.
because this individual was being pretty much harassed, I guess, or
Okay.
by one particular entity. And yeah, I guess the rest is history, especially now that the building's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Getting back to the Hotel Metropolitan, have you all had
Yes.
can you give us any experiences that you've had from the night of the investigation, and how's everybody's feelings was towards the building? And
Well, I'm going to leave some of that information about the investigations to Rick Hayes, but I will say that everyone had a fantastic time as they were leaving. They said, "If you ever come back, we'll be here." So, and I also talked to Betty, and she said that a couple of ladies that were there at the investigation actually came back and booked rooms there to stay the night, just because they had such a wonderful time. So,
That's cool.
yeah, very cool.
Well, I know when you guys
So, Rick,
go back, we definitely want to hopefully join you guys.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we're
Fantastic
working
place.
on that actually. We're working on that, right, Rick?
Yes. Yep.
Yep. We had the experiences there where we felt like we needed to go back again, so we immediately started planning and working on that. So for me, I was impressed with it because I didn't know what to expect, and when I walked in, I immediately was feeling and sensing and seeing that we was going to have some activity there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just it was very calm there, but at the same time it was very active.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, what do you mean by active? What happened?
Well, when I walk in, when I go into a place, I usually do what I call walkthrough, and I just walk through by myself and see where I need to go. And I immediately went upstairs, and I was being drawn more toward one end, at the end of one of the end of the hotel. I'm getting a lot of feedback, so if I talk twice, it's because I'm hearing myself twice.
Okay. Okay.
But I felt pulled toward the back end where there's a porch. There's a back door back there with a porch. And so I was pulled to go back in that area. And as I went back in that area, they started showing me how they would stomp the cigarettes out on the back porch. And so I started feeling that. I started seeing, not so much upstairs at that time. I just started, but when I came downstairs and went back in the back area, I think they called the Ray Charles room. I was actually visiting with someone. I call it visit. I was visiting with someone that was back there. Mm-hmm. It wasn't Ray Charles. It was someone else, but they were also giving me some. When I go to places like that, I share with everyone. When I see them, when I hear them, when I visit with them, they're not trapped there. Spirits are not trapped, but what they are, they're tour guides. I mean, who better to share with you about the location than those who experienced it and has memories there? And that's what they were doing for us. We even had a very long 45-minute conversation with the owner of the hotel, Maggie. It was Maggie, right, Rick?
That's correct. Yeah, that was right at the end of the night.
But when I say active, for me, it is actually seeing them and hearing them and actually visiting with them as we're using the equipment to validate what I'm being shared. Mm-hmm. And we got that a lot that night.
We really did. Especially there was an upstairs area where there was one restroom upstairs, that's original. Mm-hmm. And Rick was drawn to that immediately, that area when he got there. And he and I were standing there, having a discussion about how it was back in the day. And then during the investigation, we were in that hallway, and a couple of folks, including myself, heard scuffling down the hall, and I thought maybe it was in that restroom. Mm-hmm. I walked in with Rick, and I had one of those, I don't know if you're familiar with the old school cell sensor meter, has the red light and the needle gauge.
Right.
And, yeah, I think we had a K2, and I had a metal meter, so we were just some odds and end gadgets. We just walked in there, and pretty quick we started getting some pretty noticeable hits on the cell sensor, which I usually don't get much of anything on that unless I'm really picking up on a poor electrical outlet something or a microwave. Mm-hmm. And it really went off. I've got a video online on Facebook that you could see where we were in this activity. Okay. And Rick said, well, hey, let's go across the hall because I got a feeling something's going on there. We were having the K2 interaction earlier. And that's okay. So we walked over there, and the second it happened again. And that's what refers back to earlier when Rick said he got kissed. He was actually in the middle of a sentence, and he and I both thought we heard someone say the word holiday. And he actually even started to say the word holiday in the middle of the sentence where it didn't fit.
Right.
And turned around, everybody's like, no, we didn't say anything. We didn't hear anything. So we thought, well, told Rick, this Billie Holiday did stay here. A very, very beautiful and talented young woman with a very tragic life, in short. Now, so we started talking every time we would mention Billie Holiday, these meters would go off. And so Rick started asking questions to the entities there, and we were getting validation through the K2 meter and the cell sensor at different times. Mostly the cell sensor, which is surprising because that's one of the pieces of sometimes I don't even get out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, Billie Holiday has family here, by the way.
What's that, Billie Holiday?
Yeah, she has distant cousins that live in Paducah.
Wow.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't recall that, so that's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, may have been Billie's cousin then, Rick.
Yeah, may have been.
Well,
you never know. Might have just been somebody playing with you. My been pretending they were Billy.
Did you guys happen to come across an entity by the name of Ashley by chance while you were there?
Now. Ashley?
Yeah.
Well, I have a tag along named Ashley, but I don't think that's who you're talking about, is it?
No. Because when we were there, our first, actually it was our second time we were there, I was using the 81, which is, it's a 3-in-1 device. It's a temperature, EMF detector, as well as a geophone. And the far corner of the hotel, the first floor bathroom, and I went ahead and laid it down, or actually stood it up in the threshold, and we were talking about this Ashley, and all of a sudden the lights kind of went light blue, and I said, okay, is your name Ashley? Can you go ahead and light that up full blue? And all of a sudden it just fired off, and it was just bright blue, and then you could see the geophone kind of ticking like someone was walking toward the device. So we kind of thought it was Ashley, and I don't know, did you look anything up on this Ashley?
I didn't find anything on an Ashley.
You didn't find anything on an Ashley, okay. But whoever it was went ahead and said her name was Ashley when I asked. But that was really cool.
You know, while there were a lot of celebrities and athletes that stayed there, you know, there were also a lot of common folks.
That's true. That is true.
You got to recall this was back in the days of Jim Crow, segregation, and African Americans or people of color couldn't stay in the same hotels and restaurants as Caucasians.
Right.
I know it seems crazy in this day and age, but it's, you know, that was just the norm back then.
Yep.
So whether it was a celebrity like Ella Fitzgerald, who was one of the regulars there, or Duke Ellington, or Cat Calloway, or who knows, Ashley Smith, or whoever,
right,
who just happened to come through town and need someplace to stay. They didn't have options. They had one hotel.
Yeah, that's very well possible. That's very well possible.
Yeah. And we had done another experience where we was upstairs and we was in the back corner where the door was. I just got on the balcony, and we were not getting a lot. It was almost like they were waiting for a certain time. But as we were getting ready to finish that area, I thought they said the word to me, Mabel or Marble, and so I asked Rick if he would. He went down the hallway and looked at some of the posters they had out, and there was a gentleman there by the name. Was it Marbly, Rick?
Yeah, I think it was Fate Maribel. I think is how it's pronounced.
Maribel. And we found that he wasn't really recognized, but he was very, very instrumental with the like Louis Armstrong, and he was very instrumental and very disciplined. And we started getting a lot of information on him. And one of the things that we got was that whoever was telling us this was they felt he needed to get more recognition than what he was getting. Some of these celebrities that were getting a lot of recognition that stayed at that hotel is almost like you forgot this guy who is just as prominent in our career as we were in the field. And so that was another thing that we got that we found later that was very interesting.
And you know, Rick, I don't think I got a chance to tell you this, but I talked to Betty Dobson about Fayette, and she said that he was actually, I believe, a cousin of Maggie.
Okay. Really?
Maggie
okay.
Yes. Isn't that kind of, it's pretty fascinating. So it may have been Maggie upstairs and downstairs.
Yeah.
He owned the place.
Right.
Yeah, or maybe they were both there.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that kind of freaked me out. I still, to this day, cannot explain what happened to me. But see, the first time we were there, we were actually filming when we had our original crew, and we were called the Fantastic Ghost Hunters, and we actually were filming an episode there for an independent network, and so that's where I kind of got some of the stuff that we had. But the second time we went back, we actually took a class. We did Ghostology 101, and then we invited a class that was in the Ghostology 101 to actually investigate with us, and we went to the Hotel Metropolitan. So we had at least 12 people with us, and it was kind of cool. It was not really an event, but they were investigating with us. And we went to this particular room, and there was a Bible and a bottle of, was it tequila or whiskey?
It was whiskey.
It was whiskey. There was a bottle of whiskey on top of the Bible. And I was standing toward the side of the bed, and I had a camera. We had a girl named Whitney had a camera. We had Sam's daughter had a camera. Paula was on the bed with her daughter Autumn. They were using the Echovox and the K2, and she was asking questions. And she started talking about the whiskey, and she's like, "Do you want to get a sip of whiskey? Or, you know, do you like whiskey?" And all of a sudden, I can't explain it, but I had the taste of whiskey in my mouth, and then I started getting dizzy because I actually got drunk in that room.
Fascinating.
I actually had to leave the room, go downstairs, and I was fine. But I was actually drunk, and they figured something was wrong because I was slurring my words like a drunk person would, and I was hiccuping like I was drunk. I did not even touch the whiskey.
What,
to this day,
Gavin, that room, was it in the front part of the hotel or the back part of the hotel?
As soon as you come up the stairs, it's kind of like diagonal. It's not like directly in front of the stairs, but it's kind of diagonal.
On the opposite side.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. I know exactly
That's where we were, Rick.
Yep.
And to this day, I can't explain how that happened, but it was just really bizarre. Then after, when I gained my composure, we went up to the Tina Turner and Ike room, and I was using the Echovox, and I got cussed out. The Echovox actually was saying a few nice words to me, and it was coming across with a man's voice, and we kind of put two and two together. It was possibly Ike that was cussing me out.
Yeah. That would definitely fit his nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that room you were talking about, Gavin, I'm pretty sure it's the same area that we had a lot of activity in. But I immediately started seeing there was I'm going to say six individuals that was mischievous and kidding around with us, and it was a lot like, I'm not going to say it's baseball players, but it's a lot like how baseball players, you know, would kid around and pull pranks and things like that.
Oh yeah.
It was that's kind of what was going on in that same area that you're talking about, and they were having fun with us.
Yeah, and you know, it's kind of interesting that we had a woman with us, Tabitha Linton. She's into natural healing stones and crystals and you know, the saging and all the different natural things. But she's also an amateur photographer.
Okay.
So she was taking a lot of photos that night. And she took a photo across from that room looking towards the bathroom.
Okay.
And it looks like there's a silhouette of a person kind of in the doorway. You can see the face pretty clear. And it almost looks like they have a ball cap on.
Okay.
So I thought that was kind of interesting with the history of the African American baseball league staying there.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, and then with what Rick just said about him reminding him of baseball players.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that was kind of interesting too. I'm gonna real quick, when we were talking with Billie Holiday, I suppose. we brought up the purple room, and the meters just went crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so Rick asked, "Hey, if we go out there, you going to come out with us?" And they went crazy again. So we all loaded up. We went out to the purple room. Nothing. It was silent. It was almost eerily quiet.
It was very similar to it being like a private club, and we weren't part of the membership basically, but we did. A teammate of mine, Rick, his name's Rick as well. Ricks are taking over the world.
I see that.
Yeah.
But he was just outside the door in the corner, and his meter was going crazy. And he actually was over near the trees as well, and then we got some photographs there as well. So I don't know why it was going on in that particular area. I didn't see anyone there. I felt a strong presence there. I actually didn't see anyone there, but he would use his meter and it would go crazy. I had a meter with me and I put it right next to his. Mine wouldn't do anything. And then we switched. He took mine and I took his, and the one I had, it started going crazy with him, and with me it didn't do anything. It was almost like they were being very selective that night as well.
Right. Well, one thing
you know, Rick, that's right there in that same area between those two small buildings, garage style buildings. Tabitha caught another photo with a very strange light anomaly in it, and when she zoomed it in and showed it to us, there's a very clear silhouette of a gentleman's face in that as well. I totally believe in matrixing, where you look at something long enough, you'll see something, but some of these are far too clear to just be a coincidence.
Yeah.
But no. And like Rick said, when we were in the purple room, I'm sure back in the day, when everyone was in there, if a Caucasian or a white person were to walk in there, I'm sure the place got silent. And if 8 or 10 of them walked in there, there's no telling what would happen. So
right.
I'm sure they were probably not comfortable with all of us showing up at one.
Yeah. But that purple room was actually considered like a speakeasy, wasn't it?
Yeah, sort of like that. Yep.
Yeah.
I think the rumor I heard was that some of the folks who would stay at the hotel that weren't entertainers would complain that this guy kept me up all night banging on the piano or playing his guitar all night in the lobby. So they kind of decided to make the purple room into a bar, which was actually I think they had a laundry facility out there and a barber shop as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So it became a popular place for all of the entertainers and ball players to hang out on Friday, Saturday night, whatever night. And can you just imagine being there on a Saturday night and Ray Charles is out there banging on an upright piano and B.B. King strumming on the guitar and maybe Tina Turner's wailing some tunes.
There you go.
And they're all having a couple of good drinks. I'd give my teeth to be a fly on the wall one of those nights.
Yep, that would have been an amazing night. That purple room is one place that we have not been to. We never even stepped foot in there when we were there. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
What was the reason why we didn't do that?
The bar is actually still there, and it's really in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Betty has had some folks out from the Electrical Workers Union and different ones to do some work there. So hopefully it'll be up and actually usable, maybe even functioning as a. I don't know if it'll be a bar because they'd have to have a liquor license, but
right,
maybe some sort of a.
They can make it a jazz room.
Oh,
yeah, you can make it a jazz room.
yeah.
Put a stage in there. See, I'm not really sure how big this purple room
Maybe
is.
make a coffee house.
Yeah.
The purple one is just like an oversized garage, really. You know.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Couple two-car garage, maybe.
Okay.
And it's actually 2 separate rooms. It's fairly decent size.
Yeah, we ran.
Yeah,
out
when
of time.
when I walked in there personally, when I walked in there, I immediately didn't feel like it was empty. It was no one was there. I even went into the barbershop area and asked them if they would give me a haircut, and I didn't even get a response to that. And I thought, you kidding me? Look at my hair. I still didn't get anything. I didn't even get anybody to walk up to say, "Take a seat. We're going to work on you for a while." But I didn't get anything in there, and I really think it was because, if you think about it, the hotel is an historic place, but that place back there was their own private club, and it was very selective. I think selective individuals were able to go in there and listen to these celebrities that were playing and communicating with each other, and I think when we just went in there, we weren't a member.
Yeah.
I mean, probably back in the 20s, 30s, 40s,
But I will say this. I will say this. When we started talking, that we was finishing up for the night, and we was in the room where Maggie stayed. And when we started talking with Maggie, it was such a pleasant 45-minute conversation. In fact, Rick, if you remember, she was standing right next to you. I told you she was standing right next to you, and you had your meter, and it was relaying the messages to us as I was talking to her. But do you remember the lady that I said something about, do you want to sit down or something, or someone asked you if you want to sit down, and one of the ladies came over there and brought a chair over there to you, and she put it right next to you, and I said, "Oh, you just put it on Maggie." and that lady kind of looked, she said, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Yeah, we actually had something similar to that. We were at the Massac County Courthouse, and we were up on the second floor in a courtroom that was, hasn't been used in a long time. And I was setting up my camera, and I was putting it on a chair, and all of a sudden she's getting, what were you using, the Spirit Box or Ovilus?
I was using Alice.
Oh, she was using Alice. And all of a sudden it popped up and said, "Seat, chair, Rebecca. Mama." And she goes, "Gavin, I think you just sat on someone." I was like, "Whoops." Yeah. It's amazing how they can actually communicate with us that way. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, and for me personally, it's incredible. I mean, I've worked with investigators for years, and I always say this: I commend the professional investigators out there, paranormal investigators, doing what they do, because for individuals like myself who has these abilities, and we just share with you what we're seeing and feeling and communicating and visiting with, the equipment that you investigators are using is so incredible to me, and just it gives something concrete for those who wants to, most people has to see it, touch it, feel it to believe it.
Right.
And for you investigators doing what you're doing, and for all of you investigators listening to this show tonight, I thank you for what you're doing, because you're helping those like me who is sharing the messages, but you're giving them something they can see, touch, and feel to validate it. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
right.
Most definitely.
That's a very good point. And a good example was when I brought up a little bit ago about when you mentioned there were half a dozen folks running around that felt like they were like goofing off like baseball players might. And right at that same time, Tabitha brought that photo of someone who appeared to be standing in a doorway with a baseball cap on. I mean, that's you don't get much better validation than that.
It's strangely
unless one of our EPs has Billie Holiday singing.
Well, I guess y'all need to take up a little blues and a little jazz and try your own little hand back in the purple room.
There you go.
Oh, I don't know. Betty did.
They won't want. They don't want me to sing. I'll tell you that.
No, when we we toured the building. Betty sang a little bit of some of the old songs, or an old song.
Mm-hmm.
And tell you what, that woman's got a voice on her.
We never heard her sing before. Right?
There's no way you're going to get me to sing.
Oh, wow.
I do. Yeah. I do good to talk. So.
Well, did she happen to mention to you guys that she has captured some weird things on her DVR system?
On her DVR? No.
Yeah,
No.
We haven't seen it, but she said that she'd actually seen some weird light anomalies that would actually go shooting on down the hall. She had one that actually came out of that far bathroom on the first floor. Just like a ball of light just came out of that room into the other room, and where the TV is, where it shows you the history of the hotel and stuff, and just disappear. Now, when we were there, there was an instance when I was just panning, and I thought I saw something that was kind of weird. It was like a flash of light real quick, and heck, at first I thought it was like somebody in a car turning on the side of the road, so that way it would give you that quick burst of light. But when I watched the footage, frame by frame, I can see that an anomaly started at the top and kind of shot its way straight down to the floor. It was like only in 4 frames, it was like zoom straight down and disappeared. And I'm like, okay, dust don't travel that fast. I mean, it was fast. And it wasn't even a bug either, because you can see it just go straight down, and it had a streak like right behind it. So I was like, oh wow. It kind of looked like if you freeze frame it from the top to bottom, it looks like a riff. You know, kind of like a portal.
And what
opened.
What area of the hotel was this, Gavin?
The far back, first floor bathroom.
Back there, behind Ray Charles' room.
Yeah, back there.
We actually had I had a team member, the Rick again. He had actually walked back toward that room, and as he walked back to that room, he actually saw someone sitting in that recliner chair looking out the window.
Oh, wow.
And I think it caught him off guard, because when he come back and told me, and we went back there, and I didn't see anyone there at the time, and we actually took a couple of photographs of the room just to see what we'd get, and both photographs was very misty, and I had taken a photo of that room before, and it wasn't. But he had actually seen someone sitting in that recliner. He didn't know if it was Ray Charles. He said, I don't know if it was Ray Charles, but he did see someone there, and it was in the same area that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't it in that same area then we did a walkthrough with Betty that we got on footage? Looks like some kind of light or an orb was falling around with Betty at the same time she was talking in that area.
I think so. I don't really recall that, but yeah, I do remember there was something that we said was following her.
Yeah, in the footage, when we went back to look at the footage, it looked like something, wherever Betty was walking, there was something with her the whole time.
Yeah. I do remember that. But one thing is kind of weird is Betty told us that there was one time that she had, not really an event there, but she had some people there, and it was really calm and quiet, but then when she came back, like, the pictures were all crooked on the wall. Remember that? Yeah. When she mentioned that? Yeah. And also that back kitchen area, she said to actually do something with the broom, like
basically dirty the floor.
Yeah, dirty the floor
and let it be, and then take the broom out of the room. And then you'll start hearing pinging sounds and like different types of noises going off in the kitchen, because I guess Maggie kept a very immaculate house, and she didn't like anything out of place or anything unsettled. And she said that they had an investigating team there, and she happened to be there that night with that investigating team. And she said she had told them the story about she had moved the broom one time, and that she forgot to put it back where it's supposed to be, and that she had walked by the broom, but the broom was on the other side of the room in this other room, and it fell down right in front of her. So the team did a little experiment. So the team did a little experiment in the kitchen, and they had gotten some flour and got some coffee grounds and made a little, you know, of course, you know, they cleaned up afterwards, but they made a little tiny mess in the kitchen, enough, you know, to aggravate a couple of spirits, and they took the broom out of the kitchen. And sure enough, they heard banging noises and cabinet doors popping and different little small sounds coming from the kitchen. And after a couple of hours of hearing off and on throughout that couple of segments, they said, "Okay, do you want us to clean the kitchen?" And I guess they had their K2 meter go off in the kitchen. And it's like, okay, we'll clean it up. And then they decided to go ahead and bring the broom back into the kitchen and sweep everything up and put it in the trash. And they walked away, and then after that, they didn't hear any more sounds.
Well, I know when we were there was a bottle that was upright, and then it tipped over. Because when we went back in there, that bottle was tipped over. I think it was dish detergent or something like that.
Well, what it was, I just kind of, you know, because they like to have everything in order.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything to that extreme. I just kind of like moved the soap away from the sink and stuck it over by the stove.
Right. But when we went back in there, it was
laying on the side.
It was tipped over. And there was no way for you know, just to do that by itself, because that sucker was half full.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting. We tipped over the trash can, and you know, we made a mess. And we started hearing noises and stuff, but we really couldn't see anything, which was kind of upsetting. Had a camera pointing at it, didn't see nothing, but you can hear it, but we didn't see anything.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they couldn't ask for a better person to oversee that hotel than Betty. I mean, she's very just a very grateful person, just very hospitable. Rick, I think you'll acknowledge this. I understand you had breakfast there. It was a phenomenal breakfast.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was. But you name it, it was there, and she kept asking if it wanted more. You know, like bacon and sausage and biscuits and gravy and hash browns with onions and cheese and pancakes.
Good Lord.
And scrambled eggs and yeah, I'm sure that's not even all of it probably, but amazing breakfast. And she whipped all up herself. And they had about 6 or 7 of us there in no time at all. And the whole time she was entertaining us with conversation and making sure that we had everything we needed, plenty of coffee, and yeah, she is. You know it, right? She is the right person for that.
Oh yeah.
She has a passion for it. She knows the history, and she has the right mindset, attitude to tell the history right without being biased in one way or the other. Just a wonderful spirit.
And she loves to talk about the place, that's for sure.
Well, have you ever seen her do it? I mean, have you ever been there in the month of February?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Fish fry? Is it the fish fry you're talking about?
No.
Oh, what about February?
February's history, Black History Month.
Ah, yeah.
She does a full-fledged reenactment of Maggie, and it is interesting, and I have watched her in full-fledged. They had what they call a history of tours for Black History Month, and they gave like designated important spots of Paducah, and they had like a couple of people at the Oak Grove Cemetery to reenact, you know, for our local famous history of Black Americans. And of course we had someone mock and portray, you know, Martin Luther King, and of course we had Betty playing Maggie. And it was kind of interesting that, you know, someone had actually shot her video. And if you actually look up Hotel Metropolitan's History Month on YouTube, it has Betty dressed as the full drag of Maggie, and she plays the full-fledged part. They made that whole building come alive for the History Month of Black History, and they even had it to where the room that Billie Holiday was in, and she would knock on the door, and you would hear singing coming behind the door, and then all of a sudden they'd open the door, and there'd be this very tired person that looks like they just woke up out of the bed introducing herself as Billie Holiday in the hallway. And it was kind of interesting, but yeah, they do that as the Black History Month at Hotel Metropolitan. So
yeah, I actually watched that video. It's amazing. It's a great video. And the day that we were there for the investigation and the event, there was a riverboat that was stopping Paducah, and Betty was there for that, and she was actually dressed as Maggie. So when she came by to let us in at the hotel, she was still dressed as Maggie. So that was very cool.
Huh. I wonder which riverboat that was, the American Queen or
the Queen of the Mississippi.
Yes, I believe that was.
Oh. Yeah, they're both usually come through quite frequently. We usually get a visit from them once every 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
I guess they were having some kind of event there for that.
So now Paula's going to go ahead and drill you guys with some questions. I hope you're ready.
Okay, now we're going to get into, well, we've discussed Hotel Metropolitan as both of y'all together. I know that last week we had issues with Rick's interview, and so some of those questions everybody couldn't actually hear your answer, so we're going to probably do a couple of repeats on those questions, because we've had some people kept asking me, what do you mean by that, or whatever, so we're going to try to do a little bit of pick up on that, and then I've got some few personal questions for Rick Hayes on being a psychic medium.
Oh, I thought she was going to ask me if I was still single.
Wait, that's on her list, yeah.
Hey, by the way, speaking of single, I want to put it out there. Congratulations to you two for an upcoming special event coming up, and congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
But anyway,
it is in June, right? I'm asking the questions
yes,
now.
Yes, it's in June. I don't know if you got the invites, but I sent y'all 2 personal invites. Didn't know if y'all want any formal invitations or not, but I had sent a private message to you because I'm trying to make a list so that when we go to order invitations at the end of January, I know how many I need to order. I never really have experienced a full-fledged wedding like this, so it's kind of interesting, and it's kind of like, I am the nervous bride-to-be, and yet I feel like I'm the bridezilla at the same time and drive Gavin ragged.
Bridezilla. Wow.
You might want to feel sorry for him.
Yeah, I'll try to be there to hold you up, Gavin.
Oh, boy.
One of us can prop him up on either side.
Bridezilla!
Okay, what I'll do is do a big back and forth. I'll do a Rick Kueber, and then I'll do a Rick Hayes question. So Kueber, sorry.
That's okay. You throws everybody off.
Okay, so this question is, like I said, some of these are repeat questions, but since the sound quality is great and everybody can hear us now compared to last week, some of these will be a repeat, so bear with me. To Rick Kueber, we had talked about you like to write first person in your books last week, so can you give us a refresher of reasoning why you like to write in first person?
Yeah, definitely. One of the reasons is because I don't write like I'm watching a movie and I'm seeing people do things. I write like I am the one doing it. To me, it's easier to be descriptive, to if there's something dramatic that happens, I can react to it the way I would, or the way I think that person would. The other reason is because I think the reader, at least for me, when I read, I like to read in first person because it puts me in the story.
Gotcha.
Versus reading about what everybody else is doing. You know, suddenly if the main character is written in first person, then the reader becomes the main character.
That makes sense.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, I don't know. I know some people like to read in third person, but it's more comfortable for me to read and write in first.
Gotcha. The next question out's for Rick Hayes. When did you know that you were a psychic medium? Do you remember the age that you started experiencing?
Well, that's a good question, and I get that question often about when did I first recognize my abilities. I feel we're all born with abilities and gifts and talents and skills, and it is for us to apply them in our lives so that we get the most purpose in our lives. And for me, I know I was born with these abilities. As far as I can recognize when I first recognized them, my memory can only take me back to around the age of 4 or 5. And at that time, you know, I was around everyone that was saying so and so. I was a little kid, 4 or 5 years old, and I can remember this. You know, people would say, "Well, so and so passed away, or so and so has died, and they're no longer here." And I remember them, and I remember seeing individuals sitting in a chair, and it's like, "Well, what are you talking about? They're right there." And so, you know, it was. I recognized it. I know I was born with the abilities, but my memory can only remember. I can remember around 4 or 5 years old when I started recognizing them.
Gotcha. Back to Rick, the other Rick.
Yeah.
Where do you get your ideas from?
Well, the first series I wrote, the Frost and Flame trilogy, are based on my team's investigations of the 3 most active and intense hauntings that we've experienced over about a 10-year period. Now, the second series I wrote is a science fiction series. I really have no idea where that idea came from. I had finished my first book, Forever Ash, and I enjoyed writing it so much, I thought I want to write something else, and it just had this little idea in my head that, I don't know, maybe been inspired from War of the Worlds and White Mountains. I don't know. I've watched and read about every sci-fi movie and book there is. The classics, anyway. So, you know, this started out as a little short story I was going to write. And whenever I started getting the notifications of, hey, when's the next book in your Ghost series coming out, I just put it away, put the science fiction story away, and wrote these other 2 books.
Gotcha.
But then when those were done, my publisher said, well, this is fantastic. What are you going to write next? I said, well, I have no idea. But I got this little short story, and I sent it to her. And she said, oh, this is great. This should be your next book. I know it's a whole new genre for you, but this is well done. I think you should write this as your book. So that is now a 6-book series, but at the time it was, you know, just a short story.
Gotcha.
So basically I just developed the characters and imagined what would happen given one main event, I guess you would say. And the story just kind of told itself. So I don't know, maybe that's why I'm a writer, because these things I don't really try. They just happen. In fact, I joke a lot about getting mad at my characters for not listening to me. You know, I'll make a little outline of how a book's going to go, and a third of the way through it, I'll be throwing the outline away and cussing at my characters because they're gone off and doing something totally different, and now I've got to figure out where the ending is. But I think that, you know, that's not a very good answer for someone who's wanting to write something that doesn't know where to go or how to begin. But that's how I do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And like I said last time, you know, if you don't know how to begin, just start writing. And as Ernest Hemingway said, just write drunk and edit sober.
I don't think Gavin wants to see
I was
me
just
drunk.
about to say that. I just didn't remember how it went.
I'm not condoning drinking. I'm just saying. Basically, you write like you have no cares. It doesn't matter what you write. You just write, and then come back and read and edit, and pay. You know, be ridiculous about that part of it.
Gotcha. Oh, I meant. Okay. With that, I have another question for you, but I'm gonna throw the other next question to Rick Hayes. Have you ever not been able to read someone?
I'm sorry, Paula, can you repeat that?
I said, have you not ever been able to read someone?
Fortunately, I have. I've never had that situation. Every time after over 16 years of being in the public with these abilities and doing private consultations and doing seminars and doing events, every time I'm always very nervous, and I've always, not so much in the last few years, but every time I would say, what if no one shows up? What am I going to do? I can't dance. I can't sing. What am I going to do? You know? And so, but every time it just makes sense to me if someone is coming to get what many in this field call reading, their loved ones know that what they're doing, and they know they want to hear something. So I've never had a situation where I've had, if anything, Paul, I've had more situations where individuals would be visiting with us that we weren't expecting. I had, you know, for example, one of the private consultations I had this afternoon, we had someone that this caught them by surprise because they was not expecting this person to be. But as we began talking more and more about what they were sharing with them, and it made more and more sense why he was here today with them, because it really helped them in the end. So as far as anyone coming and visit, and nobody coming to visit with me, you know, I make a joke out of it, but it's really not, because I can go into a Walmart and there may be 500 people in there shopping, but there's actually 5,000 in there because those that are shopping has their loved ones with them. And I see them. You know, one lady be pushing the cart, and it'll be her old man husband next to her, you know, walking down through her that has moved on several years ago. So, but I've never had anyone that. Now I want to go on a little bit with that, because people say, well, if that's the case, Rick, how do you live in your day, because it must be around you all the time? Well, they understand that I'm learning about life here, and they understand that I'm having my own experiences here, so they respect that. So yes, they're always around us, but yes, they do respect your knowing that you're learning about your life too. So they do not interfere with you. They're around. You know, my house is fun, and you know, but at the same time, they respect me, and they know that I need my time as well.
Okay. Now back to the other Rick. This is interesting. Question part 2, what you were talking about earlier. Are you more of a person that has to write with a laptop, or are you one of those that has to have a notebook?
Oh, always a laptop.
Always a laptop.
I have written some on a desktop computer, actually. The old school with the tower and all.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, but usually that's very minimal, like if I just have an idea and I have to be at the office.
Yeah.
But literally all of my books have been written on 2 laptops.
Gotcha.
And
Cocktail napkins.
I cannot stand, I can't stand to waste time, so I can't handwrite something down and then have to type it into,
You gotcha.
Into the format. So I have my sorry, the echoes are kind of getting to me. I have my own little pattern that I do when I write. I write in the same place. Everything's the same around me. My mouth is in the same spot. And, and I write with the same laptop. But yeah, I don't handwrite, even if I have an idea and I'm on the road. I'll get my phone out and put my notes on my phone, and then I'll email it to myself and copy and paste it.
Gotcha.
I don't like to rewrite anything if I don't have to.
Right.
All right.
Is that a fair answer?
Gotcha.
Oh, man.
Switch back over to the other Rick.
Polly, you feeling like you're playing ping pong?
Yes, somewhat. I feel like, where's the game of love on this one in tennis?
Bachelor number 1.
I'll tell you what I was thinking. I had the splash of the Men in Black movie.
Oh, Lord.
And so you've got K and you've got H.
Yeah. K and H, yeah. I love it.
All hail K! Oh.
Right.
Okay. All right, back to Rick Hayes. Have you ever had an experience when you're doing a reading that felt you were uncomfortable in doing the reading?
Yes, I have, and it's funny that you mentioned this because I just saw we got some news clips today, and there was a news clip where a psychic was being sued by an individual because this psychic had relayed to them that they had 6 months to live.
Ooh.
And if you're in this field and you have these abilities, one of the things you should know, and you definitely should know, is that is something that we are not to relay. It is not our purpose to relay anything about your completion of your time. And so I'm all for that psychic being sued for that, because that should not have been. When I'm uncomfortable and I understand it, I will have those individuals that will ask me from time to time, not very often, but from time to time, they will say, when am I going to end my time here? And it makes me very uncomfortable because I am not to relay that message now, and so it makes me uncomfortable, but I do reply to them and I share with them that is not my purpose to do so. And if any psychic or medium does that, then you need to run away as fast as you can, because they should not be doing that. So that's probably the one thing that makes me the most uncomfortable. Anything else, I've gotten into a lot of, family discussions, some things that loved ones in spirit has brought up. And fortunately, it was just a private consultation where they brought up something that made them uncomfortable because it was something that was either kept as a secret all these years or something like that. But they weren't trying to make them uncomfortable. All they were doing was they were giving them the validation. Number one, they was giving them the validation that, yes, they are here because this is something I wouldn't know. And second of all, that they needed to let that go. Everything was okay now. So, but I don't get uncomfortable very often, because simply because I know, and it's not being egotistical about it. I just know what they're doing. But that is one thing that will make me uncomfortable, is if someone asks me that question.
Gotcha. back to K. We're going to do the K and H thing.
All hail K!
Does writing energize or exhaust you?
What's that? Does writing energize or exhaust me?
Or exhaust
Yes,
you?
it does.
It does
Yes,
both.
it does. It depends. You know, depends on what I'm writing. Usually I get, you know, some parts are extremely exciting to write. Big things happening, twists and turns and all that sort of thing. Other parts are just more necessary, so they're a little less exciting to write. But for the most part, writing, I wouldn't say it energizes me, but it does. I do get pumped up when I'm writing. But that moment whenever you put the laptop down, it's probably like Rick when he finishes up a session. You know, you're just drained. You put everything you've got into it.
I gotcha.
And yeah, it can be exhausting, but yeah, I mean, I get pretty excited sometimes. Yeah, I'll pick away and fingers won't be able to keep up. So, it's, you know, there are times whenever I can't even get motivated to write, because I'm maybe in a slow spot, or I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen in a few chapters. I don't want to have to rewrite something.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm particular about making sure I know where the story's going. Like I said, that doesn't always work out so well for me, but yeah, so in some cases like that, I really kind of dread it, and if that's the case, then sometimes I won't write anything at all, or at least I'll not in that particular book. I may write just write in my journal or write a short story or something like that. Because if I'm not motivated when I'm writing it, I'm sure it's not going to read well. You know, if I'm not excited when I'm writing it, people are not going to be excited reading it. And that's just my opinion, and not necessarily true, you know, or fact. But so yeah, it does both.
Gotcha.
I wish it would energize me whenever I finished writing something that I was just full of energy and wanted to go run a marathon or, you know, go out and party all night or something. But usually, you know, I'm all jazzed up while I'm writing. And then when I finally get to that point where I'm at a stopping point, usually the energy's died down and I'm exhausted.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now back to H. Okay. For the people that doesn't understand, I have some viewers that are watching that know a little bit about the paranormal world, but doesn't really know about psychics and mediums. And I want you to try to explain to me the difference for some of our viewers who are, some of my friends, trying to explain to them the difference. For your own definition, what is the difference between a psychic and a medium?
Well, I've been sharing this for years. You know, I'm not much into titles, but I know that being in this industry, you do get titles, and I've been titled as a medium and a psychic, and now as a life coach. And you know, I just tell everybody, if you want to call me to dinner. I'm happy with that. But you know, a medium is someone that is considered a medium is defined as someone who is what I define as visiting with those in the next part of life. Life doesn't end. We simply complete this part of life here. We go into the next part of life. It's life continual. So a medium is someone that is actually visiting or connecting or acknowledging those in the next part of life or in the body of spirit. A psychic is someone who is given the ability to share with you what's maybe ahead in your life. I'm the first to share with everyone there is not one medium or psychic that will be 100% accurate, because especially as a psychic, I can share with you that you'll have a flat tire next Thursday, but you can change that, and that cannot be 100% accurate, because if you go out and buy a new tire, then you're changing that. So what I define as a psychic is someone who is giving you observations or of what is ahead, but also giving you the opportunity to make those changes where it does not occur, for example. And then a life coach is someone who I started doing life coaching. I created a program now. It's been out for about 2.5 years now, 2.5 years. And I got into the life coaching part because I had so many individuals that I was giving them the validations and giving them the comfort of knowing that there's more than just life here. But I was also getting a lot of individuals who were saying things like, well, you're helping me with understanding the next part of life, but what about life here? You know, can you help me with my career? What's my purpose in life? You know, what about my relationship? And so that took me in about 4 or 5 years ago. I started studying with the top life coaches in the industry and developing my own program and started helping with life here, because I shared in one of my books, before you can understand the life after, you must understand the value of life here. So a medium is, and it's also been said that a medium, a lot of times a medium will be a psychic, but there may be times where a psychic is not necessarily a medium, but most mediums will have psychic abilities as well. So just to put it in a nutshell, a medium is someone who is visiting with those in spirit. A psychic is someone who's giving you some observations for what's ahead in the future, and that's the difference between the two.
Okay. I got a part B question on that. What about empath?
And sensitive?
And well, yeah, you're sensitive. I know everybody has some ability of sensitivity, especially working with the paranormal world. But what about the ones that, you know, have an, you know, they have been told they have the ability of empath and stuff, but they don't know how to actually function with it?
Like me. Someone told me I'm an empath, and I'm like, I'm a what?
Well, actually, I feel an empath is just a part of if you continue to evolve your being sensitive is a tool, and to give you the acknowledgement of a spirit around. And so to me, an empath, or someone that is described as an empath or described as sensitive, they're actually in the first stages of evolving into becoming a medium, for example, or becoming a psychic, because I feel like it is. Now, we have I got some very good friends that are very strong sensitives, and I got some friends that are very strong empaths, and they have acknowledged to themselves this is what they are to do with their abilities in their path and purpose. And if that's all it's going to be, and they feel that's all it's going to be, that's absolutely just continuing to evolve that part. But for me, I feel like an empath or sensitive is just a part of continuing to evolve your total spiritual self and into the medium, being a psychic. I didn't realize, you know, for me, for example, I didn't realize I was growing up with the abilities to see everyone around me, but I did not really recognize until later in my young adult years that I also had the ability to see what was ahead. And but I began evolving with those, and I evolved those by utilizing my mediumship abilities as well. So, Gavin, if you're an empath, for example, I would recommend to continue to evolve with those, and if you're very comfortable with where you're at with them, then continue to evolve that part. But I also feel like an empath is someone who is also taking a part of what they can do ahead. In other words, being a medium, being able to connect with spirit, to be able to maybe see some intuition or see some visions of what's ahead.
Well, the one thing that happened to me was over at the Hinsdale house, and I mean, I'll put this out there. I am, you know, half deaf due to being a musician, and you have to wear those inner ear monitors. So I'm partially deaf, and there's certain frequencies that I cannot hear, and you know, it's like the high pitch registers. Well, at the Hinsdale house, I said, I hear something that sounds like a dog whistle. It was really high pitch. And she looked at me and she goes, I don't hear anything. And all of a sudden she heard it. I started thinking it had something to do with angelic, because it was a high pitched frequency that I've never heard before. And then she heard it. So I don't know.
Well, that makes perfect sense to me, because I share with everyone, your physical eyes that you have, the physical ears you have, they are not the ones that actually see and hear in the spiritual self. I always share with everyone, for example, if you're sitting at home and you're watching television, and all of a sudden you think in the corner of your eye you see a shadow, and you turn to look over there and the shadow is no longer there. That spirit is still there, but your physical eyes were focused on the television, and what I call the spiritual eyes was actually seeing that individual, that one in spirit next on the side. But when you turned away and you started allowing your physical eyes to focus on that area, you were no longer able to see it with your physical eyes. Same thing with the hearing. What you heard was not with your physical ears. It was actually with your spiritual ears.
Okay. I mean, it kind of freaked me out at first, because I'm like, no, wait a minute. I can't hear something in that frequency, but I'm hearing it. And then she validated because she heard it.
That's great. I get inspired when I hear things like that.
It freaked me out, that's for sure.
Okay, back to Rick K. How long on average does it take you to write a book?
Typically a couple of months. Write a book, maybe 170 to 170 to 250 pages. The longest book that I have is my second one, and I think it's maybe 320 pages, somewhere around there. I spent about 3 months on it.
Oh, wow.
Probably the book that took me the longest to write was the last book in the science fiction series. Probably spent 6 months on it, but that's not really accurate, because a lot of that time I was not writing. I was busy doing other things, and I was doing more planning than I was writing. I had to make sure that I crossed all my T's and tied up every loose end, and I had, by that point, there were half a dozen different endings that could have evolved. So I wanted to make sure that I did it just right, because if you go through the trouble of writing 5 books and you ended on the 6th book with the wrong ending, it's hard to go back and fix that.
Gotcha.
So, I spent more time on that one than any other. So I actually started writing my first book, Forever Ad, was in January or February 14. So in the last 3 years, I guess, or just under, I've written 9 books, and for 3 anthologies, I don't know, maybe 30 magazine articles, and I have a job that takes up about 60 hours a week.
That's almost having a second-time job.
So, you know, so that's why I like doing these radio shows, because I have something to fill my empty time.
Okay.
Actually, this is one of the highlights. I enjoy talking to folks. You know. And I want to say something while we're still on the air. If I sound like I'm stuttering and pausing, I'm getting this terrible echoing on my end. And I actually did capture a video of it.
Okay.
I'm going to post that, so the folks listening don't think that I have some speech impediment or learning disability.
No,
no offense, to folks who may have those things. But
yeah, no, we hear you crisp and clear. So there isn't any stuttering or echo or anything on this end. So the recording's going to be really good.
Well, I have the same connection on this end as well, but I do want to iterate about your question, Paula, to Rick, because Rick is a writing machine. We talk about my abilities and everything, but I tell him all the time, how in the world, I just don't understand how he can put out the books like he does, because we just talked about this a couple weekends ago. I've been working on one for over a year, and I'm on chapter 2,
That sounds like me.
And it's like he's putting these books out, and it takes time to write. It takes like he said, you got to feel that right moment to write. And I just don't know how he does it, because I call him the writing machine, because that's what he does.
Yeah. I've been trying.
Here's a good example. Okay, these anthologies I was talking about. It's the Amazing Paranormal Encounters.
Mm-hmm.
Rick wrote for them, and Rick. We've both written for it. There's 4 volumes out. I wrote for the first 2. And when the 3rd one was being written, I told my publisher I wanted to step back and not write for that one, because I was deep into this science fiction series and I didn't want to lose my rhythm. And so they were okay with that. A lot of people were wanting to write, so there was other authors and things. When the 4th one was being planned, I was contacted and I said, you know what, no, I still am not really comfortable with taking the time to write for this and get sidetracked. So I said, well, okay, we've got some other options. About 2 weeks before it was supposed to be released, they contacted me, and there was an issue with one of their authors that wanted to pull their story. Had some kind of I don't know what the problem was. They had a falling out of some sort. So I was asked if I would write something for this book that was going to be released in 2 weeks. So I said, okay, let me think of something. I don't have a story, but let me think of something. So that was on a Saturday morning. About 5 o'clock Saturday evening, I mailed my chapter in to them, and I guess they were pretty pleased with it. So it was about, I don't know, a couple thousand words, maybe 10 or 12 pages, something like that. But, I didn't even really have an idea, but I threw it out there in a few hours. So I guess that's what Rick means by I'm a writing machine. If I set my mind to it, I can crank out a lot of words per minute or an hour, or however you want to say it.
Okay, that does it, Rick. You're hired as my ghostwriter.
Well, I'm a ghostwriter for 2 other people right now, but.
Man, I tried to write a book and my grammar sucks, so I really can't do it.
Oh yeah, I edited his first put. He printed it out and he handed it to me. I said, "Do you really want me to do that?" And he's like, "Yeah, go ahead." I said, "Well, let me go get my red ink pen."
Oh God, it looked like a first grader tried to write a book. It was bad.
But I'm very OCD about that kind of stuff, and the problem with that is that my publisher says, "Oh, you're the golden child. You send something in, I don't even hardly have to go over it." So things come out, and I read them, and I'm like, "Hey, there's an error in this book that's been released." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even catch that when I was editing. I think I was caught up in the story." Like, oh, darn it! That's not what an editor's supposed to do.
Right.
Oh,
I mean, I appreciate you that you enjoy the story, but
oh, it's like
but yeah,
Go ahead.
whenever you, I was gonna say when you don't have a lot of errors, and they get used to that, then they kind of stop looking for them. And I'd much rather them be a little more critical on me and catch the comma that should be a semicolon, or or when I accidentally edit a sentence and leave a word either in that should have been taken out, or it starts in one tense but ends in another. Both of those things have happened. But I'm really OCD about that. I edit people's Facebook posts.
Yeah.
Not to be mean, but I'll send them a private message. Hey, I'm not trying to call you out, but but the proper way to say that would be.
Yeah.
So it's a blessing and a curse, folks.
I'm constantly going ahead, and when I go ahead and write it for the first time, I will look over what I just wrote, and then I'll do it again and again. So when you ever see those posts about who's going to be on the show, I edit it like 3 or 4 times until I'm happy with it.
I know when I was in college, I had an English teacher, and I loved her to death, and I still love her to this day. I see her every once in a blue moon. And she always told me if we ever wrote we had to write an essay or write a short story, which I took journalism for 3 years in college. And she'd always tell me, always write your story, put it down, walk away for about 3 days, then come back and pick it back up. And she made us do that. She made us do deadlines, and she told us how to present ourselves with deadlines. And she says, well, okay, I want you to write 500-word short story. I want you to turn it in to me. I'm not going to edit it. I don't even want you to even look at it. And so she'd keep it for about 2 or 3 days, and then later she'd pass it out to everybody. She goes, now, I want y'all to reread what you wrote. Take your own red ink pens, and then start marking your own corrections. And then that's when we started learning how to actually correct our own work, even better than having an English teacher do it. So that's the reason why.
I'll tell you one of the for anyone out there who's a would-be writer or a part-time writer or whatever the case may be, one of the best pieces of advice I could give for editing is definitely put some space in between, like you said, between writing and editing, so you don't know it by heart. You just skim over it if you know it too well.
Yeah.
The other thing is to sit alone and read it out loud yourself. If you read it out loud, each word, you'll catch 10 times more than you would if you didn't read it out loud.
Gotcha.
Because your mind will fix things that if you're saying them out loud, it won't.
It's like it sounded better in my head than reading it out loud.
Well, exactly. Because you know what you want to say.
Yeah.
But when you read it yourself, not out loud, you're still saying what you want to say. So when you read it out loud, sometimes you realize that it doesn't really read the way you think it does. Or you may skim over a word that's maybe not correct, close, like, I can't think of a good example here, but yeah, a lot of times you'll write that the word that you put in a sentence may work, but it may not read well. But because you wrote it, you know what it means, it flows better than someone who's reading it for the first time, has no idea. So, yeah, reading out loud, we'll catch a lot of that stuff.
Okay. Speaking
Sorry,
of,
I know everybody's not listening to the show to hear about writing.
yeah. Well, speaking of writing, I haven't really focused on Rick Hayes, but he's got a few books out, one being The Stepping Stones. And
Yes.
what is the motivation that you have when you create your books, Rick Hayes?
My books are written for a reason. And what I mean by that is the first book I wrote was based on experience in helping a family. The book Stepping Stones was written because I was getting I get questions daily about just many different questions from many different individuals. And the book was written from my responses to questions that I was received, but I created them in short story form. Actually, when I wrote the book, there's a friend of mine that I highly respect, and he wrote the Chicken Soup books, Mark Baker Hansen, and he gave me some good advice. But when I wrote the book, I got a lot of feedback of that. The book was very similar to the Chicken Soup books, and I relayed to everyone that, well, I couldn't title it as Chicken Soup for the Paranormal Soul, because if I did, I would have to give Mark some of the royalties, and he don't need it.
Right.
Yeah, because the chicken.
But my books are written for a reason. My last book was Reasons for Hauntings, and the reason I wrote that is simply because I was getting a little bit uncomfortable with it. It seems like television, when someone says the word haunted house or haunted place, they automatically want to make it a negative place. And I found oftentimes that when you go to a location, there's a lot of times that there's nearly nothing negative in it, that it's just simply those in spirit wanting you to know about the place. And so I wrote that book because I was basically saying, just because you name it a haunted doesn't mean it's haunted as we define it. So I wrote that book for a reason too, and that was to help individuals who may have a home that they have an activity in, or if they know a location that is having activity, that there's another definition for haunted, and here's what you can do to get a better understanding of when you're in a place that has active or activity, then you will have a better understanding of what you can do to get a better understanding of what they're trying to relay to you. So that all my books I write for a reason. The one I'm working on now, and I've been writing on it, and I was being honest and truthful when I said it. I've been working on it for over a year, and I still can't get very far on it. But I'm actually writing. The book is writing a little bit. I don't want to call it a biography, but it is a lot to do with some of my experiences in my life and some of the things that I've experienced and what I've observed. And the reason for it is because I have so many individuals that have been asking me, what's it been like living with these abilities? What's it like with, how do you live your life each day? And so there's a reason behind that, so people get a better understanding of how Rick Hayes lives with these abilities, and everything's okay with it. And when will it be out? I'm a psychic, but I can't give you a prediction on that.
Well, I got a part.
Now that I've hired Rick as my ghostwriter, we may get it out next week.
It comes out yesterday.
Yeah.
Well, I got a part B question for you, Rick Hayes. And I love seeing this, and this kind of helps me through some of my weeks that I might have and stuff. But I love your motivation quotes of the day that you post every day. And I just wanted to do a shout out to that, because a couple of them, I've even commented on some of them on, my aspects of it. And some of those have actually, I like to open up my laptop or my phone in the morning before I have to drag into the retail business of Christmas season. And a couple of those things have actually got me to where I can feel positively charged that this day is going to be successful. So I just
thank you so much, Paula, and I appreciate that. And again, I write those for a reason. Facebook is a tremendous tool, It has been a tremendous invention for individuals to interact and socialize with one another. But what I see on Facebook a lot is a lot of negative, and so when I was asked by my admin person that, well, actually, he contacted me and he said, Rick, we set you up. First of all, he said, we set you up a Twitter account. And I said, what's a Twitter? I didn't even know what Twitter was. And then a couple years later, he said, we set you up a Facebook account. And I said, what's a Facebook? But I knew when we put that together that what I was going to write is, I wanted to reach out there and give something positive each day and something for you to observe and think about. My personal page is more about personal things in life. My fan page is more about the spiritual side of life. But the whole key to my pages is, and it's an inspiration to hear what you just shared, because it's my whole reason for writing those is to give something to one person or give something to whoever's wanting to read that morning my post. Give them something to think about, and more importantly, give them something positive to think about in their life. I think today we talked. I always have a question of the day. You notice that?
Yeah. My favorite one was the one where you did the roadside vegetable stand.
Yes, and it's experiences I've had in my daily life, but at the same time, it is something for you to recall. I think today was about clocks that chimes, and that was really based on several days ago when I visited my mom, and she has one of those clocks, and it chimes every 15 minutes. And I thought, when we have this conversation, we don't really listen to the chimes that's going on, but once we focus on those chimes, we notice they're there. But to me, it was like, no matter whether what you're focusing on, time still goes on. So, but thank you for that. I'm glad. Keep posting answers for me.
Okay, I will. I got one last question, and it's to both of you guys. So it depends on whoever wants to answer first, or argue over who's going to answer on this one. But
Rick, do you want to say yes and I say no, or do you want to say no and I say yes?
Get your hands on the buzzer.
It doesn't matter to me. If I go first.
Okay. Well, it's whatever
I've got more options.
Oh, my question is, what are your future plans in writing projects and the paranormal field?
Oh, very good. Writing projects. I'm actually working on writing a biography for someone. That's one of the ghost writing things I was talking about. I'm actually not ghost writing. I'm writing under my own name, but it's their story. They're feeding me like a timeline, and I'm turning it into a novel type story. Although it's nonfiction, factual. So that I'm working on that right now, and of course I definitely have plans to write a book about the hotel. I think the Hotel Metropolitan would make a great novel, even if it were just the history alone. If you took the haunting and the paranormal out of it, it would still make a great book.
Right. Right.
As far as what I've got coming up, Rick and I have got some events that we're going to be doing together, and I'll let him talk about those. But the one thing that I'm working on, and also writing with this as well. Right now, I'm writing a few characters for an upcoming television series called Night's End. Comes out 2018. So that's kind of interesting. It's 10th century, or excuse me, 1019. So it's 11th century, Great Britain. So it's fun. And the same company that I'm working on that with, we're putting everything together for a feature-length movie based on my first book. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about all that. As Rick can vouch, whenever you get into anything film-related, it's a hurry up and wait thing.
Oh yeah.
And then they want it done yesterday when they're ready. So I'm trying to be as patient as I can. And I'm pretty level-headed. I'm pretty even keel. I don't get excited. So when it happens, it'll happen. And if I have to work 24 hours a day for 2 months, when they're ready, that's what I'll do.
Right.
So if you want to, I guess I'll toss it over to Rick now. If you want to elaborate on what you got going on and maybe some events that we've talked about doing together.
Yeah, we're actually the fourth quarter of each year. I've got a great team, and we get together and we start planning for the next year. And we've got some travel. We got a lot of travel for next year. We'll be going to be doing what we call the Connections Weekends in some very very exciting locations next year. We're going to be at. I'm also going to be doing. We're going to be developing more of the life coaching workshops, and I'll be taking those to different areas throughout the country for next year as well. We got some television projects that I'm not really can't go into right now, but we got those going on. And you know, I don't really bring much up about those until and as Rick said, when the contract sign is when you'll hear about me, because
Right.
I could come out there and say, oh, we got this going on, but you know, I make it a point not to talk about it until the contract's signed, and that's what I do.
Right.
So, but as far as writing, I'll be continue writing. I write in different areas, and I'll be working on this book we're talking about. But if you want to know more, just check out the Facebook pages or social media. Check out my web page, and we'll let you know what's going on. But we're really excited about 2018. Rick was talking about a place we're looking at going back to the hotel. We're also got another place that we don't want to mention right now because we got to get that all finalized. But it's going to be a very exciting place to be at for an event weekend. But the Connections Weekends will happen again next year. Really looking forward to those. Also going to be at some colleges. We're working on some colleges that I'll be speaking at as well. So I'm just looking forward to next year. But you know, right now I'm just. If you ask me what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to have breakfast in the morning.
Well, I tell you what, we are going to be joining you at an event in March?
No, it's in May.
In May, we're joining.
Oh,
yeah.
Edinburgh.
We're going to SuperCon.
SuperCon in Iowa.
Yes.
We are.
Yes.
We're speaking
that's
there.
An incredible place. Never been there. Well, I can say I've never been in there. We was. I had to. We was on we was in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Iowa, and Illinois in about a 3-week period of time for appearances and things. And we actually stopped there as we was going through. I said, I got to check out this place that we're going to be coming to in May. And we stopped there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And boy, it's going to be great to see you guys there.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. We're going to be there in February, actually filming an episode at the Edinburgh Manor.
And then we're coming back.
Awesome.
And then we're coming back, and thanks to Serenity and my strange idea, we're going to be part of the Stomping Grapes competition.
Oh, God.
So that's going to be an interesting event.
It's a James Anito and a Kevin Betzler project. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And Santiago.
Oh, and Santiago. Yeah. It got a little haywire.
It was a joke at first. We were at Silicon, and it was a joke at first, and Serenity took it serious, and she ended up turning it into an event. So yes, there is going to be a grape stomping contest at the Super Bowl.
And what's his name? Scotty is going to clean their feet.
Scotty Rourke?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Wow.
Exactly. And I believe they're trying to get Bishop Stevens there as well.
Oh, it was so
because
funny.
It's going to be Santiago and Bishop Stevens and James Anito and Kevin. They're the ones that are going to be battling.
Wow. Well, Scotty's crazy enough.
Oh yeah, I don't want to drink the wine. I'm
Right.
sorry.
Crazy, because Scotty's my brother. He's a great guy, but he's a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, we were with him at SoCon, and we also were with him at Haunted Bourbon in New Orleans. He's a character.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy,
I call him the road runner because everywhere I looked, he was constantly going.
Mr. Ghostbuster Belt Buckle. Yeah, Mr. Ghostbuster Belt Buckle. Well, all right, you guys, go ahead and let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, Rick Kueber, how they can find your books, where they can find your books, your website, and then after you're done with that, then Rick Hayes, you can go ahead and tell everybody how they can get in contact with you, so all our listeners and viewers can actually be able to contact either one of you.
All right, fantastic. I am a social media nut, so I tell everyone Facebook's the best place to contact. I'm always on. I get all the notifications. I'm really good at responding. I don't ignore anybody. As far as my books go, boy, wherever you want to go. You can get them at barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com. Books A Million, as most of them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're local here, you can get them at the local Barnes and Noble. And they are at random Barnes and Nobles all over the place. I've been told they're in Alaska.
Oh wow.
San Antonio. Had someone told me they picked them up somewhere in California, but I can't recall what city.
LA.
So it just, because they're in the catalogs, I guess if it piques someone's interest and they order them.
Yep.
A
good way of doing it.
So we're not really marketed where we're in nationwide, but we're available at any of them. I always suggest people, if you have a Barnes & Noble close, go there and order it and have them deliver it. You don't have to pay shipping on it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you order out of the store, you don't have to pay shipping.
Right.
Yeah, and plus that's good for me because if someone orders a book, a lot of times they'll order two and put one on the shelf, and it just gets the word out more.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with my first series, because the ones about the hauntings, all of those stories kind of have a moral. They tell a story of things where people have made mistakes that they regret,
Mm-hmm.
or that have caused other folks a lot of pain and regret. And I think there's a lot of good stuff that comes out of them. And I'd much rather not sell a single science fiction book than sell a ton of those, just because I think people can connect with them and learn something from them.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they can't from the science fiction. I mean, there are morals and things in there as well, but it's more of just a fun book to read, a series.
Right.
So Facebook, I have a Gmail account, so if you look on the advertisement, just spell my name, Rick Kueber, at Gmail. I don't actually have a website. You can go to stelliabooks.com and look at all the books that they have, the different authors, but contacting me through social media, that's the way. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there.
All right.
Yep.
Rick Hayes, your turn.
Well, you just go to lifesgift.com. That's my website, lifesgift, lifesgift.com. I am on all the social media out there as well. I've got a YouTube channel. Just look up Rick Hayes for that. And if you want to get in touch with me, just reach out to me on social media, on the website. Again, the website is lifesgift.com. My books are everywhere, just as Rick shared as well. And of course, I always end everything with this. If you see my Facebook page, you see every time I sign something, it is my tagline. It is actually a trademark now, but it is believe. Just believe.
Mm-hmm.
I got something real quick to add.
Okay.
I know you were supposed to go last, and that was a perfect thing to end on. Just thought of something, Rick.
Uh-oh.
You know, the first article that I wrote that I was really proud of was published was for Life's Gift. I don't know if you recall that or not, but you used to have that where you'd have all these amateur authors, I guess, or write articles.
You sure were. Yeah.
Yeah. That was back right after we first met.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It just popped into my head. I had totally forgotten about that.
That's been a long time ago, Rick.
It has. It has. I know. I still have that picture. You know, the advertisement. I'll have to dig that out.
Yeah.
And since you have your tagline, I'll throw mine out there, which is be sure to keep your eyes and your mind wide open, and you'll be amazed at what you'll see.
Mm.
All right. Well, it has been a pleasure to have both of you on our show tonight, and it was really cool to actually make history, so to speak, for both of you being on a radio show at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all of our listeners and viewers can say that this was a very informative night, and they've actually got to see and hear and learn who Rick Kueber is and who Rick Hayes is. So hopefully they'll be.
Yeah, we are the Ricks.
The what?
We are the Ricks.
The Ricks.
Yeah.
Ricks are taking over the world.
Yep. I'm actually looking forward to listening to the show because I think it's going to make a lot more sense listening to it from the recording.
Oh yeah. Well, after we're done, it's up. It's already there.
That's good. Yep.
All right. Well, you guys.
I'll be listening and I'll be sharing it.
All right. Awesome. Well, you guys have yourself a good evening, and thank you for being on the show once again.
Thank you, and congratulations to you two again.
Thank you very much.
You.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yep. Thank you. You have a good night too.
Night.
Well, there you have it, folks. We were joined by Rick Kueber and Rick Hayes. So you guys now know where you can go pick up their books. You can find them on Amazon.com, Barnes & Nobles, and, of course, Books A Million. And we all would like to thank you for sticking around. I know we went over just probably a few minutes, but hey, it's okay. It's our show. We can stay on as long as we want. But anyway, have a great night, and once again, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Tascam. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to have this podcast, and of course, we wouldn't be able to have the Paranormal Journey into the Unknown, so we are truly thankful for having Tascam, and always remember that Tascam is there to help keep your creativity alive. Everyone have a good night. Bye-bye.